Is it really enemies to lovers when one of them doesn't realize they're enemies? I kind of think not. Who's she? I don't know her. There was no world building. What's up? Welcome to the channel. I'm Kristen and today I'm going to tell you the books I have DNF'd so far in 2025. So just in case you've been living under a rock, DNF stands for did not finish. So these are the books that I could not bring myself to finish. Hopefully there will not be any other books I DNF before the end of the calendar year, but if I do, I might have to make another video talking about that. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. Also, I do just want to say that just because I did not enjoy these books enough to finish them doesn't mean that nobody should ever read them. So listen to my opinion, listen to my reasons, and then judge for yourself. Also, I don't hate any of these books. I certainly don't hate any of these authors. These are all just books that were simply not for me. However, at the end of the video, I am going to tell you about one book that I did finish this year in 2025 that I wish I had DNF'd. And that book, maybe I do hate. No, I can't say. I don't hate that. I just really didn't like that one. Okay, so first on the list, and perhaps the most polarizing on this list, so let's start first and just get it over with. I DNF'd Powerless by Lauren Roberts at 80%. I am finally letting this book go, despite the fact that I have been listening to the audio for like 11 or 12 hours of my life. I just am so unexcited to pick the story back up. I don't really care how it ends anymore, and I'm ready to just move on with my life. So if you don't know, Powerless is the first in a series, incredibly popular on Book Talk, BookTube, Bookstagram. It is about a girl named Peyton who lives in a kingdom where people who do not have powers are considered ordinaries, and that has actually been outlawed, and the king has been getting rid of people who are ordinary over the years. Peyton, she does not have any power. She is an ordinary, but in order to stay alive, her father trained her from the time she was young to pretend to be a psychic. So Peyton's love interest is Kai. It is supposed to be an enemies to lovers situation. I don't really feel like it's enemies to lovers. Is it really enemies to lovers when one of them doesn't realize they're enemies? I kind of think not. Like, Peyton hates Kai. Peyton's afraid for Kai to discover her secret. Kai thinks she's a psychic. He doesn't know that she hates him that much. So, plus they're never really like enemies. They flirt like almost immediately. So they're not really enemies to lovers. That is completely overused as a marketing strategy, in my opinion, recently. And this one did not fit the bill. So that was a disappointment. I wasn't really feeling the romance in this one. Kai is definitely not on my like book boyfriend list. I wasn't feeling it. Also, this book is about like a challenge. There's this thing that Peyton gets nominated to enter. It's not really that important. It's kind of like, you know, the Hunger Games or Red Queen or lots of other things like that, or like the end of the first ACOTAR book. There's like a series of challenges that she has to compete in. And while the challenges themselves were interesting, there was so much downtime between challenges. I felt like this story could have been a lot more fast-paced if there was more like boom, boom, boom. The challenges were closer together, or like the downtime scenes were used more wisely by the author. I don't know. I just felt like all the downtime was about like the romance blooming between Peyton and Kai and then going like absolutely nowhere. But so yeah, I have finally decided to let this one go. I kept trying to slog and drag my way through the audio because I was like, I've listened to so much of this. I gotta finish it and see how it ends. But at some point, I just found myself not caring how it ends anymore. This was a very divisive book. I have heard that people either love it or hate it. So make your mind up for yourself. Okay, the next book I DNF'd this year was Immortal Consequences by I.V. Marie. This was a book that I got from Book of the Month. I got it with beautiful sprayed edges and a design on it, and I wish I hadn't. It had such a good premise. This like mysterious Blackwood Academy. These people are there like after they die, all these like teenagers, and they're in like a school to learn how to lead people like through the afterlife, and it just like perfect, right up my alley. Dark academia, fantasy element, very like paranormal feeling. It was just boring. Also, it is told from like 6 different points of view, and right off the bat, you have like a chapter from each of those characters' POVs, and I just felt like I couldn't really get into the story because every time I started to like feel like I was getting to know a character, it like swapped to the next POV, and that's too many characters for the first book in a series. I wish that the author had maybe picked like 2 or 3 of those 6 main characters and just focused on their POVs. It's not working for me. Also, very cool premise, but very slow moving in the beginning. I DNF'd this one at about 45 pages, I think. I was reading a hardback copy of this, and I just finally put it down, and with every intention at the time of like picking it back up, but then I read something else, and then I read something else, and then I read something else, and now it's been like a month, and I don't know, I have really no interest in going back to it. So it's a shame because really cool premise, beautiful cover, just I don't know, didn't live up to the hype I gave it in my own mind. All right, next is the book I probably DNF'd the quickest from this list, and that is God Killer by Hannah Kaner, which I DNF'd at like 5%. From the get-go, this was a problem for me. The prologue was very confusing. I don't know why. I something about like the way it's written, it's both flowery but stiff at the same time. I don't know. I actually think that the writing is probably really great, but it just did not mesh with me at all. I read the prologue and I found myself rereading several of the pages of the prologue to understand what was happening over and over again, and I was like really annoyed with that, and I put it down and then I picked it back up and started with chapter 1, and I read the first few chapters, which again, chapters 1, 2, and 3 are from 3 different character POVs, and while it didn't feel as off-putting as the POV problem in Immortal Consequences, I just felt like I don't know, it was slow and it was boring. When chapter 1 started, the character whose POV we're reading from, it starts off like they're going to kill a god. And I'm like, great, okay, so just the prologue was confusing, we're picking it up a little bit. No, everything was just not interesting. I just wasn't interested in anything that was happening. Amazing cover, great title. I don't know. It did not mesh with me. I didn't like it. Lots of amazing reviews on Goodreads and Amazon. Just, I don't know. Not for me, I guess. Okay, now we're going to switch gears to a mystery/thriller that I DNF'd, and that is Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. This was a book I was very excited to read, and this was going to be my first Alice Feeney book because she is a thriller author who has written a lot of books. People typically enjoy that read the genre and has decently good reviews. This was going to be my first Alice Feeney book, and I don't know if it'll be my last. I would be willing to read another book by her, but not Beautiful Ugly. Really cool premise. A man who is a writer is on the phone with his wife telling her some good news. She's in the car driving at the time while they're on the phone with each other, and he hears her slam on the brakes, the door open, she gets out of the car. Nothing else. She's disappeared. She's not on the phone anymore. When they get to the place where her car was, she's just missing and she's never found again. So pretty like standard mystery setup for a book like this. And then a year later, he's still struggling like to get writing done and to move on with his life because he's so focused on this weird thing that happened with his wife, of course. And so where does he go? To a cabin on a teeny tiny Scottish island. Perfect. Amazing setup. I love reading mysteries and thrillers that take place in parts of the UK. Tiny Scottish island, great. Isolated location, probably lots of like weird, creepy lore. Again, perfect premise for me as a reader. Follow through, just, I don't know, it didn't meet the criteria. I don't know what was happening in this book. When he got to the island, weirdly, that's when everything in the story stalled for me. I made it to about the first like 15 chapters and I just decided to DNF it because I just wasn't into it. I didn't really care for Grady as a character. See, the premise is he thinks he starts seeing his wife on this island, which is impossible because it's this tiny island in the middle of nowhere, which he's randomly been sent to by his like publisher or something like that, and it would be so random for his missing wife to just show up there, but of course that's like the whole premise of the story. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the writing I didn't like, or if when the story really got going, I didn't really care for what was happening. It didn't have that like creepy, mysterious aspect to it that I think I was kind of expecting. So it was a letdown and I DNF'd. Okay, the last book that I have DNF'd so far in 2025, I should have said when I said Powerless was going to be like the most polarizing on this list, I should have said it was one of two possibly polarizing books on this list, because the last book on my list is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So this is another, like Powerless, I was listening to the audio of this, so that is something to keep in mind. Maybe I'm not gelling with the narrators, or the audio of this is just not working for me, and maybe the print would have been a better choice, and it's certainly possible down the road I might decide to go back to the beginning and read it on my Kindle or something. But I did listen to 45% of the audiobook, so I made it about halfway, and I just don't care about either of our main characters. I don't care about Sarah's. I don't really care about Kingfisher. I don't really see where in the world their romance came from all of a sudden. I didn't really think he was that great of a male love interest. Like, he says weird things to her that are very like off-putting, and I'm really into like the Grumpy Sunshine or the Grumpy, but he was just like off-putting. I can't think of a better word than that. I did not enjoy their like conversations, and then all of the, and that was supposed to be like flirting, by the way. Like, he would say things like, call her like a hungry little bish in heat. And this is not like after they got together. This is the grumpy flirting, like pre-together. Also, another issue I had as somebody who loves fantasy, there are all different levels of world building that are fine with me, but you gotta tell me something. World building in Quicksilver? Who's she? I don't know her. There was no world building. Like, there's like little scraps that were thrown along the way, and we're just supposed to accept that like this is how things are. The majority of the book that I read was like in Kingfisher's, this castle in the Fey realm. Like, I know that later in the story, I think that they do venture out and go someplace else, but it was just a lot to be stuck in this like one location in the Fey realm and not have a lot of world building. Like, at least tell. Normally I want, show don't tell, but there wasn't even any telling. It was just like scraps. Oh, and finally we have another case of the enemies to lovers. It's not really enemies to lovers. So again, please stop using that to market books that are not actually enemies to lovers. Okay, finally. This is a book that I did finish. I don't know why. Sometimes there are books that you really know that you should DNF, and for whatever reason, you just don't. You just push through. I don't know what I was expecting to happen in this book that I felt like I had to finish it, but I finished this book, and it was my least liked book of 2025, and I can't imagine I'm going to read another book in the next 2 months that is going to top my dislike for this book. And that book is Blood of Hercules. Oh, I forgot the author's name. By Jasmine Mass. Listen, this book was not for me. I didn't like the writing style. I didn't like the characters. I was very disappointed and let down by the premise, by the follow through on what was supposed to be the premise, I should say. Yeah, okay, so Greek mythology, I love reading fantasy books, both YA, both YA and adult, that have like Greek mythology retellings and what have you. So I was really excited at the premise of this, and it had really great reviews, and I was like, oh, amazing. Like, I had just read The Things Gods Break. Oh, no, that's not the name of that book. The Games Gods Play, that's what it was. Really liked that, and was like really wanting some more Greek mythology, like retellings and whatever. This was supposed to be a dark romance. This had like no romance. None. The relationship between our main character, who, well, I don't even remember her name. What the heck was her name? Alexis. Wow. Okay, I didn't even remember that. Alexis? Really? That's her name? Okay. Her name is Alexis. Okay, so there's like a possible romance between her and one of her professors, which is really weird because the way that she thinks about him and talks about him and internalizes her thoughts about him are very much like a love-hate relationship, but their interactions are super weird and awkward. And then there's this whole other thing, like she's paired with, I've like blocked this book out so much, and I just read it like, I don't know, a couple months ago. Achilles and Patro, I'm not quite sure how to say that. They're her mentors, and I don't know, they're like a couple, but there's like a, maybe it's like a wide shoes. The whole book, I wasn't really sure who I was supposed to be shipping her with. I wasn't, there were like so many options, and I thought, are we getting like a wide shoes situation here? I mean, it's a dark romance. It was dark in the sense that like everybody was abusive to Alexis. Like nobody was taking care of her or understanding her point of view. She's like thrown into this training situation where they're like torturing her to death, like really intense. Like that met the criteria of dark in the dark romance. But like, I don't know. Everyone in this book was ridiculous, including Alexis herself. Also, the writing style just did not mesh for me personally. There's a lot of asides, like a lot of like Alexis making a comment and then there'll be like a side comment she's thinking to herself in parentheses, you know what I mean? And I think part of the issue for me is that I read this book in print. Well, actually I read it on my Kindle. People who have raved about this book, a lot of them listen to the audio, and I could see if there was like a really good narrator, they could pull off those asides and maybe that would have come across totally differently. But in print, it was the weirdest thing. The constant like asides and the parentheses. I've never seen that so many times in a book ever in my life. That was definitely a first for me. I've never read a dark romance that did not really have any romance in it, and the plot was extremely repetitive. There were a lot of events that happened throughout Alexis's training that like once they happened once, they would happen again, and then again, and then again, or something was described like over and over and over again. And oh, I don't know. I really wish that that was one of the books on my DNF list, but unfortunately for me and my free time, that's the one I chose to finish. Probably should have finished one of the other books on this list and DNF'd Blood of Hercules, but again, it's gotten a lot of really great reviews, and like Powerless, people either seem to really love it or hate it. It was not at all my cup of tea. I will not be reading any more books in the series. I really did not enjoy anything about it except maybe the premise, the synopsis, and the cover is pretty cool too. That's it. Those are all of the books that I have DNF'd so far in 2025, and let's hope that there are no more DNFs that I can add to that list before the end of the year. Let me know in the comments below what books you have DNF'd. Let me know in the comments below what books you have DNF'd this year. Have you DNF'd any of the same books as me? Did you love those books and you think I'm a little bit crazy? That's okay, you can let me know. If you enjoyed watching my video today, make sure you give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss my next one. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.